This research was presented by 3 students from Lewisham Counselling and Training Associates at the BACP Research Conference in 2015. CPCAB awarded the research a commendation as its findings have significant implications for counselling training and practice. Here's a summary of the research, followed by an interview with the students who carried it out.
My name is Mehboob Dada, and I did this research as part and parcel of my training at LC&CTA, and it was an amazing process of self-discovery and self-learning, really, as part of my training process.
My name's Deborah Powell. I did this research as part of my training at LC&CTA, and the research topic was of personal interest to me. You know, with my own subjective experience on race and ethnicity, and I just really wanted to have a deeper understanding of how this impacted me whilst on the course.
My name is Reyhan Yaprak. I carry out this research with Mehboob and Debra as a part of my training. And what motivated me what interested me was to find out about myself and others.
It was a phenomenological piece of research based on a qualitative analysis around self-reflection. The self-reflection was based on our experiences during the training process, but also a reflection of our lived realities as members of the Black and minority communities. So it was a self-reflective process based on 5 different questions we asked each other. Same questions, over time period, where we reflected on the answers to these questions, brought them all together and did a self-analysis really, and to see if we could find any themes, concurrent themes throughout the answers to come up with some common areas, commonalities that brought together succinct issues around what was going on in our training process for ourselves.
I think in our big group, there was fear was experienced, what I think, and also, silence. Some were silenced, and some were experiencing fear of being, come across as, wrong.
Yeah, there's for me, it seems as though there was a lot of fear about coming across wrong or doing something wrong, where actually the only way to learn about anybody else is to ask questions and to increase your own self, because through asking questions you increase your own self-awareness of yourself, of who you are in relation to that individual. Or, certainly my whole training as a counsellor has done that for me in terms of when I have to sit with clients, when I have to sit with white clients in particular, as a black woman, who do I represent in that relationship? I've had quite a few different counselling experiences with that, as me as a black counsellor facing things that as a human being I shouldn't have to face at all.
There were distinct conclusions that we came up with in the research itself. The greater need for this work, a greater need for research, greater reflective exercises amongst ourselves and amongst other students. But more importantly, I think there are some interesting learning processes which I would argue for. This college is unique in terms of the 10-week piece of work that we did on diversity, but I would argue that it needs to be an ongoing exercise. It needs to be in greater depth, looking at various different elements that make my diversity, issues of class, issues of race, ethnicity, sexuality, and so on, basically. So all of those issues need to be taken on board as a way of enhancing my own learning as part of the training that I undertook. I think that needs to be standardized by the BACP, not only in relation to the further learning and training it advocates for future trainees, but also for the possibility of us as students, as trainees, future trainees, to become more productive and more reflective about the client group that they work with.
I think there's a huge responsibility for the facilitators, to facilitate, these differences, these discrepancy. One side is silent and the other side, silent but in a different way. I think maybe not directly to bring people say something, but in a very kind, subtle, gentle way, facilitate that silence and bring out whatever has to come out.
Undertaking the course, trainees need to have a degree of openness about themselves. They have to have a degree of willingness to discover self-awareness, to invest in their own self-awareness. Certainly my experience hasn't been that much on this course, that people were able to invest in their own self-awareness and to invest in openness.
Issues of race can bring up a lot for people, including the tutors who teach counselling qualifications. We spoke with the tutors at Lewisham Counselling and Training Associates regarding their experience.
I was one of the lead tutors on the cohort for the students who did the research that has just come before this. And, we've been working, doing 10 weeks of diversity issues on our higher professional diploma training for nearly 20 years now. And I found this one of the most excruciatingly painful groups to work with in terms of my own ontological being. Because one of the things that came out, one of the biggest learnings that came out for me is that it really doesn't matter how much work I do on myself and how aware I am of this. The colour of my skin is just in and of itself, combined with my natural personality, going to bring up stuff for students that I have to be prepared to work with. And, it's going to bring up my own internalised racisms and prejudices, and it's going to bring up inherited stuff for students, as well as their own inherited stuff around human difference. And I have to be prepared to do the work on myself constantly. And it's sometimes a really painful process. And it can cause all sorts of interreactions between the people I love, who I work with, because of our differences. And this particular group was very, very painful. And I think we all had to hold on to our seats like this to be able to stay with each other and stay with the experience that the students' experiences were bringing up. And it was hard, painful work.
I think for me, the students actually seeing the rawness of actually, and the realness was coming from all of us, hopefully would help them and not see it as a kind of like a hindrance, that all the stuff what was going on is actually very real, and that clients will bring that and bring up stuff, but without us almost kind of modelling this realness. It's the word diversity that seems like it's just a political kind of fad. My thing about counselling, again, what Chris is echoing for me, or I'm echoing for Chris, is that we go into the realness, we get down and dirty with it. We don't just talk about it or write about it because it looks good. You know, we're on the receiving end of this, and
the giving sometimes.
And the giving sometimes, and the giving. I'm passionate about it because for me there is like I'm looking for the word. It's almost like they have to, well, hopefully I understand, there's a realness about us. We're not doing it from a textbook. It's not a textbook stuff. You know, this is real. And there's real people here. And I mean, the impact of this particular research, maybe that for me, I'm saying, there may not have been from the other side, the student side, understanding, actually, you know what, I understand what is actually going on here. I was so kind of pleased that it was done, because I feel that like it was one of those things which is being avoided.
We hope this video has given you some insight into this piece of research. You can read the full paper at the web address shown. For more information about the CPCAB Counselling Research Award, visit cpcab.co.uk/research award.